All right, let's kick off this deep dive and dive straight into, the heart of description in public speaking.
Love it.
So you shared with me a chapter from a public speaking textbook, early 1900s, right?
Yeah, beginning of the 20th century.
Really cool, because even though it's over a century old,
Right.
the core principles are, well, they're pretty much timeless, right?
Absolutely. It's amazing how much.
So we're going to uncover how to make descriptions,
Yeah.
not just accurate, which is important, but, truly captivating, memorable even.
Yeah. And we'll even get to see how, like, the masters of language, Dickens, Stevenson, all those guys, how they use description to, like, totally hook their audiences.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to that.
It's going to be fun.
I'm excited. So let's start with, the foundation, right? What actually is description, according to this textbook?
Well, they define it as, let me see, calling up a picture in the mind of the hearer.
Okay, so it's like creating a movie,
Exactly.
but in your listener's imagination.
In their head.
Yeah. It's about sharing your viewpoint, I guess, right? Like letting your audience see the world
Oh, for sure.
through your eyes.
It talks about having a picturing mind,
I like that.
not just being able to see clearly yourself, but then using language to kind of like recreate those images for other people.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just see it. You got to
Yeah.
bring it to life for others, right?
Think of it, it's like the difference between a technical drawing and a painting.
Oh, I like that.
They both represent a subject, but only one of them really makes you feel something.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this textbook really zones in on what it calls artistic description, which seems like super relevant for us for public speaking, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's about creating an impression, not just being accurate.
Exactly.
Right.
Vivid, memorable, yeah.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, the book digs into some really cool methods. Let's start with suggestion, which is basically using just enough detail to spark your listener's imagination.
Okay. Like they fill in the rest, kind of.
Exactly. It makes it more immersive
Makes it more their own.
and way more memorable.
I see. And so an example of this would be...
Oh, Dickens. He had this great description of Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile.
Okay, so we instantly get a picture of this woman
Right.
without actually knowing.
Without any real physical
What
detail.
her features look like or anything.
Exactly. Just enough to get your imagination working.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
So it's like a springboard. You give them just enough and then their
Yeah.
minds take over.
It's powerful stuff.
Okay. Any other examples from the text or?
Oh, yeah, there's the one about General Trinkle, described as a gnarly oak of a man.
Oh, wow. Gnarly oak. I can picture him already.
Exactly. Strong, dependable,
You get it immediately.
without a whole laundry list of physical features.
Oh, and what about that image from Will Levington Comfort, the soldiers leached against a rock?
Ooh, that one's good. That word leached, it just perfectly captures their exhaustion.
Yeah.
Their desperation. It's so visual, so powerful.
And so concise. Like you get so much from one single word.
That's suggestion for you.
Okay, so suggestion is all about those key details.
Key details sparking the imagination.
What's next? What other methods are there?
So the text also talks about description by hint,
By hint.
which is like a more subtle kind of suggestion. It often uses a small action to, like, convey a much larger meaning.
Okay, so it's subtle but powerful.
Exactly.
Do they have an example for this one too?
There's the one from Chaucer,
Okay.
where the friar shoos away the cat
A cat.
before he sits down.
Right.
So we instantly know.
Ah, so he's found the best spot. He doesn't want the cat to take it.
Exactly. It tells us so much about his character,
Without actually saying it directly.
just through that one little gesture.
Cat's so clever.
Right. I like that.
It's like a little hidden message.
Right. So suggestion, hints. What about description by effects? They mentioned that.
Oh, yeah, description by effects. That's a good one.
What's that all about? Think of it this way. If you see someone shielding their eyes from, like, a dazzling object,
Okay.
you instantly understand how bright it must be.
Right. You don't even need them to describe the object itself.
Exactly. You understand its brilliance because of how it's affecting the person observing it.
So you're describing the feeling, the effect,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Showing, not telling.
rather than the objects.
Good.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
It's all about creating that experience for the listener.
Now, what about those really vivid adjectives?
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Like blue-eyed or laughter-loving. They paint such a clear picture.
Right. The text calls those epithets.
Epithets, okay.
They're like shortcuts to complex ideas.
I see. So instead of saying, like, a person with blue eyes,
Right.
you just say blue-eyed.
Blue-eyed.
Eh.
It just rolls off the tongue.
And it's so much more evocative.
Exactly. They pack a punch. The book also had the example. Wheels round, brazen, eight-spoked. That's all you need for a perfect picture.
It's like a snapshot.
Instant image.
Oh, and of course, we can't forget about similes and metaphors.
Ah, yes, the classics.
Those are always great for adding some depth and richness to descriptions, right?
Figurative language is like, it helps us make connections between things that don't seem related at first.
I see. It creates these interesting links in the listener's mind.
Exactly. It can make things more understandable and memorable.
So we've got suggestion, hints, effects, epithets, figures of speech. Am I missing anything?
Let's see. Oh, yes. The text also gets into direct description.
Direct description. Okay, so what's that about?
This one's all about clarity and conciseness.
Okay, so no rambling on and on.
Nope. Every word has to have a purpose, like a sculptor carefully chiseling away everything that's not essential.
I love that analogy.
It's about that precision.
It's about making every word count.
Exactly.
Now, do they give any examples of this in the text, or?
Oh, they highlight Washington Irving's descriptions of Wouter Van Twiller from Knickerbocker's History.
I've heard of that book, but I haven't read it.
Oh, you should. Irving is a master of direct description, packed with detail, but he doesn't waste a single word.
Okay, so it's detailed, but also concise. That's a tough balance.
He pulls it off brilliantly. Like when he describes Van Twiller as a robustious beer barrel standing on skids.
A beer barrel on skids. That's hilarious.
It's funny.
I can totally picture it.
And it's memorable.
Exactly.
That's the power of humor and description.
Oh, that reminds me. The text also talked about using the historical present. What was that all about again?
Yes. That's where you describe something that happened in the past, but you use present tense verbs.
Oh, so it's like you're bringing the listener right into the moment.
Precisely. It creates a sense of immediacy, like it's happening right now.
So instead of saying, he walked down the street, you'd say, he's walking down the street.
Exactly. The book uses the example of Dr. T. DeWitt Talmage describing a baseball game. By using the historical present, he puts the listener right there in the action.
I see. So it's much more engaging than just recounting what happened. It's like you're experiencing it along with the speaker.
Exactly. It's all about drawing the listener in.
Now, were there any particular authors they recommended for studying this technique?
Oh, they mentioned Lafcadio Hearn and Robert Louis Stevenson.
Oh, yeah. Their writing is just stunning, so full of vivid imagery.
They were masters of evoking a sense of place and atmosphere through description. Like, Hearn has this one description of a temple, lifting to heaven its wilderness of chiseled pinnacles, flinging to the sky the golden spray of its decoration.
Wow. That's just breathtaking.
And Stevenson, when he talks about a quiet night in the mountains, with the stars clear, colored, and jewel-like, you can practically feel the stillness of the air.
You know, it's really hitting me now that good description isn't just about painting a picture. It's about making the listener feel something.
Absolutely. Whether it's awe or amusement or sympathy, the goal is to connect with your audience on an emotional level.
Wow, we've covered so much ground already, from the basic definition of description, all the way to these specific methods for making words come alive.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's fascinating. So we know the what of description. Now, I'm really curious to dive into the how.
The how?
Like, how can we actually use these techniques effectively in our own speaking?
That's a great question. And luckily,
Say.
the textbook has some really solid advice on that, too.
Okay, I'm all ears. Hit me with it.
Well, let's start with viewpoint and attitude. Before you even start describing something, you need to decide where your camera is, so to speak, and how you feel about what you're describing.
Okay, so is this something I'm looking at from above, below, close up, far away?
Exactly.
Am I being funny, serious, critical, or just objective?
All of those choices will shape the description.
I see. You really have to think about it from the start.
And the book stresses being consistent. Don't jump around between viewpoints or attitudes.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't want to confuse your listener.
Right.
What about the order and focus of the details?
Oh, that's another important one. It says to think of yourself as, like, an artist composing a painting.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You need to decide what elements to include, where to place them, and what you want the viewer to focus on. It's the same with description.
So are we going from general to specific? Specific to general?
Chronological, spatial.
Pick an approach and stick with it.
Exactly. Create a clear path for your listener.
And just like a good artist, we need to be selective with our details, right? Not overwhelm the listener.
Less is more, a lot of times.
Choose the details that have the most impact, like those brush strokes that bring the subject to life.
Exactly.
Now, the text also mentioned audience awareness.
Oh, that's crucial.
That makes sense. You wouldn't describe something to a 5-year-old the same way you'd describe it to an adult, right?
Precisely.
You got to tailor it to who you're talking to.
It's like tailoring a suit. You need to know the measurements.
You need to know who's going to wear it.
Right. Consider what your listeners already know. If they're already familiar with the subject, you could be more concise. If it's new to them, you might need to give them more background.
And just like a good tailor,
Yeah.
you trim away
You cut away the excess.
any excess fabric. We need to cut anything from our descriptions that doesn't serve a purpose, right?
Every word, every detail has to earn its keep.
I like that. Earn its keep.
Right.
It makes you really think about your word choices.
And it's not just about individual words, it's about the overall flow. The book cautions against interrupting descriptions with unrelated remarks.
Oh, so no going off on tangents
Right.
in the middle of painting a picture.
You want to maintain that focus, create a smooth, engaging experience.
Okay, so we've got viewpoint, attitude, order, focus, audience awareness. Anything else we need to consider?
The textbook has one last piece of advice that I think is really important. Tap into your own emotions when you're describing something.
Oh, I like that.
Try to evoke those same emotions in your listener.
Oh, so it's about bringing your own passion, your own perspective.
It all goes back to the idea that description at its core is an emotional act.
We want to connect with our audience on more than just an intellectual level, right?
Exactly. We want them to feel something.
So if I'm describing a sunset, I need to tap into that awe and wonder I felt when I actually saw it.
Exactly. And then use your words to make your listeners feel that same way.
Okay, I'm getting it. So we've got all these tools, these techniques
Yeah.
for crafting really powerful descriptions. But how do we leave a lasting impression?
Good question. The text suggests ending with a vivid general view.
Okay, a general view.
It's like you've been exploring all these intricate details, and then you zoom out.
Oh, so it's like you give them the whole picture at the end.
Exactly. Like you've walked through this amazing cathedral, you've seen all the stained glass and the carvings, and then you step back
And you take it all in.
to appreciate the grandeur of the entire structure.
Okay, I love that. So it provides context.
Yeah.
Context, closure.
And it leaves them with a powerful final image.
Exactly.
This is fantastic. I feel like I have such a better understanding of description now. It's so much more than just fancy words. It's about understanding people, choosing your words carefully, and really using this powerful tool
Absolutely.
for good. Now, speaking of using this power for good, we haven't really touched on the ethical implications of description.
Oh, that's a good point. We can't overlook that. Right? Description can be, well, it can be a powerful tool.
It can be used in ways that aren't so, well, ethical, I guess.
Exactly. Like any tool, you know,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
you can use it for good or for bad.
We've talked about how it can evoke emotions, create impressions,
Yeah.
even persuade people.
Right. So the question is,
So yeah, how do we make sure we're using this power responsibly?
that's the million-dollar question. Think about how descriptions can really shape perceptions. It's so easy to fall into the trap of using language to create stereotypes.
Yeah, to oversimplify things.
Or exaggerate things to make a point. Right. Like, if I'm describing a neighborhood,
Yeah.
I could easily focus on details that, you know, reinforce negative stereotypes, even if they don't reflect the whole picture.
Exactly. Or you could use really strong language
Oh, yeah.
to make a situation seem way more dramatic or dangerous
Then it really is.
than it actually is. It's about being aware of the weight of your words, you know,
Yeah, making sure you're being fair.
and accurate. Yeah.
So ethical description, it's about honesty.
Honesty, responsibility.
Responsibility, for sure.
Recognizing that our words have power.
They really do. And it's not even just about avoiding, like, outright lies.
Yeah, it goes deeper than that.
It's also about recognizing our own biases, making sure they don't sneak into our descriptions.
Oh, that's a really good point.
We all have our own perspective.
We all come from somewhere.
Yeah, our experiences shape how we see things. Being mindful of that and striving for objectivity, I think that's key.
Absolutely. And if we're not sure about something,
Yeah.
it's better to be cautious.
Right.
Always a good idea. Maybe choose different language.
Acknowledge that there are other perspectives out there.
Show that you're aware of the bigger picture.
So it sounds like we have a responsibility
As speakers,
to use this power carefully.
impactful but ethical.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is, but I think just being aware of these things, that's the first step.
Yeah, awareness is key.
The more we think about the power of our words and how they can affect other people,
Yeah.
the better communicators we'll be. both in terms of skill and ethics.
This has been so eye-opening.
Really?
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of description now. It's so much more than I thought.
It really is a fascinating subject.
It's not just about pretty words.
Right.
It's about psychology,
Absolutely.
word choices, responsibility.
Using this powerful tool for good.
Exactly. Thank you so much for guiding me through all of this.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great. I feel like I've learned so much.
I'm glad. So, where do we go from here? What's next?
You know, it's amazing how much we can learn from, well, a text that's over 100 years old.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really shows how powerful language is.
And how these basic communication principles, they stick around, you know?
They really do. Timeless, yeah.
And what I really like is how we haven't just been, learning techniques.
Right.
It's also been about becoming more aware of, how we use language, the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the way we describe the world shapes how we and others see it.
That's a great way to put it. I'm already thinking about how I can use all of this
Oh, cool.
to be more, engaging, vivid in
Yeah.
presentations, conversations, everything, really.
It's about practice.
Sure.
The more you use these techniques, the
Right.
more natural they become.
Yeah.
And pay attention to how other people use descriptive language, too.
Oh.
You can learn a lot from...
Other speakers and writers.
Exactly. Like, go back and read some Dickens or Stevenson.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing that anyway.
Yeah, they're masters of description.
It's like a free masterclass right there in their books.
Exactly. See how they weave it all together.
Well, this has been awesome. Thanks for walking me through all of this.
Of course. Happy to do it.
Really appreciate it. I feel like I've gained a lot from this deep dive.
Glad to hear it. Always fun to chat about this stuff.
Until next time, then.
Sounds good.